Hi, I am AltumForest, a virtual representative of a knowledgeable fish keeper and hobbyist. I am going to tell you a story about how we breed a new line of guppy. Make sure you stay with the video to learn how to receive our beautiful guppies for free in the real world. This is the first matured line since we started our breeding program in February 2020. We named this line Transnow because the male's fins and tail are snow white, but you can see through as transparent under certain light conditions. The yellow area connecting the body and tail is a very unique character. We are lucky to be able to stabilize it. Males also have 2 to 3 red or orange marks on each side of their lower body. We see those marks on wild guppies. We first thought we wanted a full yellow body with white fins, but later we changed our mind and decided to keep these marks. We did not use wild guppies in our program, and our original starting pair also were far away from any wild strain. It is pretty cool to see some wild guppy characters represented in a captive breed line for many generations. Male's top fin normally grows beyond the yellow area and reaches to half of the tail. Light color guppy breeds seem to stay small in size. Transnow male can grow up to 1.5 inches and females can reach 2 inches. Females are simply yellow, orange for the whole fish. One thing is really cool about the females: in certain light conditions, the entire body is transparent and you can see the bones and brain, gills and even small eyes of fry right before they give birth. We try to add some white to the female's tail, but only a few show some sign of white color around the edge of their tails. We have tried to cull females with more white on their tails for breeding, with very limited changes introduced towards the direction of full white tail females. Now we know about all the characteristics of males and females. Before we review how we create them, let us look at the breeding tank setup. Here are some facts about the breeding tank. We use an aquascape 10-gallon tank with a heavy plant and open top. Big driftwood at the center tied with low light dwarf anubias as middle ground, then planted most common baby tears in front and some background plants. 8 hours lead blue/white light. 75 Fahrenheit, 7.2 pH and general hardness around 150 ppm. Add CO2 and no air pump. Water change 50% once a week. 50 g canister filter. Liquid plant fertilizers NPKM. We used a bare tank with a sponge filter only for breeding before. We also tried a bare tank with low light plants tied to driftwoods or rocks. Both methods have pros and cons. In general, the simpler for tank setup leads to easier but more work. For example, bare tank with sponge filter only, twice a day heavy feeding required at least 50% water change twice or 3 times per week. Need to put breeding net and net females. Also need to prepare a separate raising tank for fries. But you do not need to worry about lighting, no trim of plants, no waste accumulated in the soil. Easy to observe the fish, no need to net out offsprings. We would like to enjoy a beautiful aquascape breeding tank with definitely pros and cons. Let us get into pros first. Females have a lot of hiding places to give birth, less stress compared with breeding nets. Females also recover better and faster. Fries can dash away and hide from adults' fishes. Breeding tank can be enjoyed with beautiful views and live plants. Cons are also very obviously. Need a lot of maintenance work on planted tank. Cannot use medicines or even just salt to do regular tank maintenance. Netting out the grown-up batch is very challenge work. Cannot do heavy feeding with frequent water change strategy. Fishes jumped out accidentally due to open cover. It is a balancing work to get an aquascape breeding tank ready. It took about 2 months to finally get the tank ready so we can introduce breeding pairs. Mainly we waited for plants to grow big and heavy enough to produce enough oxygen to support breeding activities. We are already in the 3rd phase of aquascape. A typical phase cycle for planted tanks is about 12 to 15 months. Breeding tanks with heavy feeding may speed up the phase cycle. Soil starts degrading, plant roots start growing in the water, and some plants start growing out of water. We keep hardscapes like driftwood or rocks, but switching plants, and at a certain stage, soil will not be suitable for planting anymore. We need to either redo the whole tank or shifting and keeping the final phase as is with most plants with roots in water and leaves immersive. Still beautiful but just different phases. Let us enjoy swimming with the breeding group for a few minutes. In our second part of the breeding video, we will reveal how we design the breeding and culling process to help us get the Transnow line established. But before that, let us answer some questions about feeding.
What type of food and amount of your feeding for the breeding group?
We feed 1 mm guppy pellets in the morning and live-hatched baby brine shrimp in the afternoon. The amount totally measured by experience, but in the aspect ratio of one fish can eat the same amount of food as the size of their eyeballs. It is hard to give an exact measurement as the number and size of the fish in the breeding tank always changes. Feeling is very important. After I deal with 5 lines, 20 plus tanks, 3 to 4 years of practice on feeding twice every day, I think I can scoop the right amount. Temperature and water quality can dramatically impact the appetite of the fishes. Keeping these two consistent and stable also help to establish a good feed routine.
Do you feed any special treats for females to prepare for the birth and to recover afterwards?
I do not. Live baby brine shrimp with nutrition balanced pellet should be good enough for fish to stay healthy. I know someone use bloodworms or live tubifex worms to boost females. The high protein food does the magic, but often cause some problems if your fish does not get used to those food. If you decide to do that, I will suggest to do it regularly during the grow up. Like once a week, feed all your fish so your fish can benefit in a regular base and their digestive system can get used to these type of food. Also, high protein food tends to make fish grow faster and get matured earlier, but it will not change much about the adult fish size. Eventually all the fishes will reach adult size depending on the gene in the line creation. For females to prepare and recover after birth, I think stress plays a big role rather than food. Net female right before birth, not enough hiding place and bother by males during and after the birth. All these stresses can easily kill the females or make them sick. That is one of the reasons we choose heavy planted tanks for breeding.
Do you feed your fish differently at different stages?
We feed breeding tanks twice a day and raising tanks once a day. During the 0 to 1.5 month baby stage, fishes could benefit from more frequent feeding, like 3 to 4 times a day. But that will require almost daily water change to keep up the waste buildup. For raising tanks, once a day feed works for us as well. We rotate 2 types of food, brine shrimp and pellet, each other day. Guppies are constantly looking for food, but that does not mean keep them full all the time is the solution. In nature habitats, food is limited and they have to keep looking, so their body has been genetically built to be empty stomach most of time, and small amount of food actually can keep them going for a long time. Under captive breeding, constant feeding 1 a day should be more than enough to keep guppies growing healthy. We see more digestive system issues from feeding, and we sometimes purposely skip 1 day feeding to help relieve some buildup on their stomach. In general, define your own success measurement before you choose your ways of raising the fishes, including how to feed them. My answers are totally based on my experiences, and you may already tell from my story that I have tried many methods before I found one that works for me. Use my story and answer a general guideline and reference to adjust into your own success. If you have any questions, get them to me. I will try my best to share what I know. I think creating a new line of guppy is fun and rewarding, so I would like to invite anyone who is interested in it. We can work together to establish, change and create new varieties of guppies. I created a participation program where you can receive all the fish for free and move to the next level after you unlock the joy and knowledge. Please visit AltumForest for more detailed information about the participation program. Subscribe and go to AltumForest to participate in starter level to receive your first free 5 pairs of guppy from any lines we are currently working on. Although I really enjoy working in my fish room to create new line of guppies as a hobby, and I need to spend couple hours every day to process videos and images and create stories so I can share with all of you, your subscription and participation are my best support. And for sure, A cup of espresso at night also helps. Hope you enjoy our story on Transnow about pair introduction and breeding tank setup. In our next video, we will review more secrets about how we set up our breeding program and culling process. Again, with your support and participation, we will work together to continue to bring new and beautiful varieties of guppies to the hobby.